Uh, okay. Let me try to get through this. Beads of sweat formed on Jack's head. He stared directly into the camera, a strange nervous smile managing to cling to his face. He stole a quick glance over to the... Whoever came up with that fucking phrase, he stole a quick glance. How the fuck do you steal a glance? Alright. He stole a quick glance over the monitor. He's set up to view the comments on the live stream. It had 400 people watching with comments flying through at a machine gun pace. They read things to the effect of, I could have come up with so much better phrasing for that shit. To the effect of, he won't do it, and he'll puss out. He stepped into position, his pasty, mildly hairy body adorned with a pair of white boxer shorts. Okay, now, hairy. Okay. Keep that in mind as you read later on, because I want you to think of like biting into a sausage with like hair in it, and I want you to get kind of sick. If you do that, I did my job as a writer. For a moment, he really did think about pussing out. He needed to grow his channel, but a stunt like this was mind-boggling. The crowd was watching, though, and between that and the breathtaking pile of opiates he'd taken before this, he found the courage. He reached out, grabbed the crank, and gave it a turn. If the internet as a living entity could have made a sound, the appropriate one would have been a gasp. He'd really just turned the crank. He'd really just turned the crank, just like he said he would. The machine gun pace of comments stopped in that moment as viewers processed what they'd just seen. Jack himself didn't know if he was going to pass out. The sensation was indescribable. He managed to stay with it, and the comments began to come in again. Oh my fucking god, he did it. In the writing, that's OMFG. Shorthand. And I can't believe this, and this is really happening. Jack had been true to his word. He'd turned the crank. While he had the crowd in awe, he bit his lip. He bit his lip and gave it another turn. Sweat was pouring down his forehead. Oh. Comments came in like, okay, this is sick now. Jack was feeling a bit woozy. He reached for the EpiPen he brought with him just in case. The burst of epinephrine would be enough to keep him going just a little bit longer. Just a bit longer. Now that he was certain not to pass out, he gave the crank another turn. I did a lot of fucking research on that, whether or not an EpiPen would actually keep you going if you were, like, doing stuff that would make you pass out. Blood and viscera spurted up. It was simple pressure dynamics. Some of it landed on Jack, but he just shrugged it off and kept that nervous smile on his face. He was concerned about traffic to the video. 400 people was nice for a will he really do it video. But now that he was doing it, he really needed the traffic to start going up for this to be worth it. He checked the active watchers. It had gone up to 600. Not bad at all. Jack gave the crank another turn. He checked back once more. Another 20 people tuned in to watch. It was amazing. It's 5 a.m. right now. Excuse the yawn. It was amazing. This was really working. The view count was soaring up by 20 at a time, then 30 at a time. Jack was no longer nervously smiling. He was overjoyed. He gave He gave another diligent crank as the viewer count topped 1,500. Jack had given intermittent cranks for several minutes and watched as the views were going up by the 100 now. If he wasn't careful, he was going to crash the feed. The comments were coming in too fast for him to check. Yeah, too fast. Man, I typo the shit out of this stuff when I read it. They seem to be a mixed bag, like, I think I'm going to be sick and, oh my god, the meat is coming out the other end. See, I told you the hair part would be important, because you're, like, biting sausage and there's, like, hair in it. Think about this shit, man. Jack gave a look down. Sure enough, he'd ground his legs clear off in the meat grinder. He turned the crank and watched as blood pooled into the device. Fuck, man. He certainly severed his femoral arteries with that last turn. Jack didn't have long to live now. He looked up to the monitor. Over 10,000 people were watching. They were watching Jack, the man grinding himself to death in an enormous meat grinder. He hadn't pussed out. The stunt was a success. Sure, Jack was dying. He could feel the cold overtaking him as he bled out into the grinder. Fuck. But with this many views, his channel was guaranteed to take off now. Just like mine isn't. Okay. Yeah, that's enough. Alright.